What's up, everybody? It is Jordan from Wednesday Night Warhammer. We're going to talk about a little bit of a tournament recap. I went to an RTT last week, and this was TLM's RTT that I think they do monthly. And I had a great time. I had a relative good amount of success, that I would say, and just some thoughts about how the Tyranids meta is shaking up right now. Just wanted to share my experience with you guys. So let's get into it. So once again, this was the RGT, that threat level midnight. What we call TLM is what they go by most of the time, but threat level midnight. If you don't know The Office, then you should probably watch The Office. But they're a really good group of guys, and they put on some really good tournaments as well. And here is the list that I took to this tournament. It's kind of the invasion list that I've been running for quite some time now. Took it to ATC, had a pretty good amount of success with it as well, and I've been having fun with it. So this is kind of what I've been running. My characters got a Broodlord, then a Hive Tyrant with Adaptive Biology, Neuro Tyrant, and then in battle line I have 2 squads of Gargoyles and 1 squad of Hormagaunts, just to do some action screening and move blocking shenanigans as well. In my other data sheets, I have 1 Biovore, 2 Exocrines, 10-man Gene Stealers, triple Lictor, double Maliceptor, double Pyrovore, 1 Ravener squad, and then the 6-man Zoanthrope squad. So I've had a lot of success with this list. I think it really does well into a certain portion of the meta, and it does a great job of doing its game plan of taking objectives early, move blocking, and then kind of counter attacking with either my big shooting line or with my Gene Stealer brick, just to kind of overwhelm whatever my opponent puts out into the middle of the field. Basically, it wants to initiate trade wars with my opponent, either through a Lictor, a squad of Hormagaunts, or even like a Pyrovore or something like that, and then force the opponent to send something out, and then my entire army just jumps on that section of the field, establishes kind of like a control point of whatever side of the field that I want, and then hopes to snowball from that point by denying primary with my other battle line units, and then just holding as much control while cutting out assets from my opponent for the rest of the game. That's kind of how it wants to play. It does a pretty good job of doing that, but I will absolutely be talking about some of its shortfalls later on in this video. Well, let's go to our round 1 game. Round 1 was against a Tyranid Mirror. I was playing against an invasion fleet with actually more monsters than me. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I saw this pairing, I actually was not very excited because I just know for sure how tanky Tyranid monsters can be, obviously, because I play with a lot of them. And I understand that they can be pretty actually annoying to deal with. So I wasn't super excited, but and my opponent, Joel, he was such a good guy. Honestly, everybody at this event was just incredible. It was probably one of the best experiences I've had at an RTT. Just everybody there was chill and just wanted to play games, and Joel was definitely no different to that. But talking about his list, he had double Tyrannifex, triple Maliceptor, and I believe he had 2 Exocrines as well. And because of that, he didn't really have as many scoring units as I was able to have, and that's kind of the thing that I really keyed in on after going over our list. Is my list is probably not going to be able to outkill this list, but I could probably do my best to move block and outscore. So he did end up going first, and I think he got either area denial or established locus or something. So he basically had to commit something to the center, and he put a Lictor out there. And then he basically moved everything up so that everything was kind of in cover, so I wouldn't be able to get great shots turn 1 on my end. However, one thing that he did move up was he moved up his Maliceptor to the bottom rightmost objective. And I thought that was a little bit aggressive. I had my Hormagaunts that were placed behind the little alcove of terrain. So to counter on my turn, I was able to charge my Hormagaunts and actually charge the Maliceptor and tie it up on that objective there. and then point all of my guns at the Maleceptor, as well as I put a Lictor on that center objective too, just to contest so that he didn't have control of that objective marker anymore. And then the Hormigaunt play at the bottom with the Maleceptor. The Maleceptors cannot kill a 10-man squad of Hormagaunts. The math is just not there. And I knew that. So if my Hormagaunts go in, tie up the Maleceptor, make sure that it can't move. And if it's shooting outside of combat, then it has that -1. All of my shots into the Maleceptor did not kill it, and I honestly was not surprised with that. So my Hormagaunts were tied up. Believe it or not, the Hormagaunts also did not kill the Maleceptor, even though I had lethals. But that's kind of the way it was. And honestly, that was kind of how I was playing this game. I wasn't really playing the game in order to kill things. I was playing this game in order to move block and outscore. One other thing that Joel did in his turn is the topmost objective marker. He had a bunch of Hormagaunts go and charge a Lictor that I had placed over there. The Lictor fought first, killed a good number of the Hormagaunts, but he was able to control that objective marker. But then I was able to fall back with the Lictor, clear off those Hormagaunts, and then call it a day on that objective. And I pretty much just camped that objective for the rest of the game. So it just, kind of to skim the rest of the game, that's pretty much what happened for the rest of the game. He had T-Fexes in his deployment zone that I was able to keep there by deep striking gargoyles and then scooting them an inch away from all of his Tyrannifexes so that he wasn't really able to move them into good vantage points to see my monsters that the Tyrannifexes really, really wanted to activate into. So really my game plan, like I was talking about before, I ended up killing a lot of stuff, yes, because of just me not letting his units activate in the way that he probably wanted them to, with all my move locks and everything. But also, even with me, if I hadn't picked up things, I still think I would have outscored him because of my Hormagaunts, my Gargoyles, and honestly my Gene Stealers move blocking too. So if you're going up against a Tyranid monster heavy list where it's definitely skewed more to the monster side instead of using a lot of scoring units like my list does, I think you just out OC them, you block them, and you don't let the Tyrannifexes see the things that they want to see. And that is honestly one of my things that I have a little bit of a hang up with Tyrannifexes. But anyways, it was a really good game. Thanks again for the game, Joel. If you're watching this, it was a great way to start the event. A Tyranid mirror that I'm honestly not super excited to play into, but I think I did a great job of outmoving and outscoring this Tyranid list for that round. Round 2 was into Imperial Guard, Astra Militarum. If you are not familiar with Guard right now, they are very good, in my opinion. And maybe there's just a slight amount of bias because Tyranids, I feel like, really don't like playing into Guard right now because they are able to do a lot of tank spam, a lot of very durable tanks like the Rogodorn or the Leman Russes. And then in addition, which is also pretty spooky, they have the Chimeras that can scout move. So the Catachans inside the Chimera allowed to scout move a whole bunch so they can move and disembark not like 19 inches from their deployment zone, block you in your deployment zone, have some okay weapons like flamers and other last guns and stuff, so they could maybe kill a scoring unit and then threaten an Overwatch the very next turn as well. So it's honestly, in my opinion, a lot of not good stuff for Tyranids is Imperial Guard, which is really funny when you see round 3. But anyways, this guy's list, his name was Ricky. Ricky was such a cool dude. We had a really good time, and I really appreciated the game that I had with him. He had, I think, 3 Leman Russes, and then a tank commander, and then 2 Chimeras, and then the Catachans, some Tempestus Scions as well, and then a big squad of 10 horses to round out his list, I think, which was a pretty cool list. I don't think that's the standard Guard list or something, but it definitely has a lot of really strong pieces that allow you to control the battlefield as well as put some early pressure on that honestly I wasn't used to seeing or prepared for with Imperial Guard. So this game, going into it, kind of like I was talking about before with round 1, seeing his list, I knew that I was not going to be able to kill the big targets. Like, if I point my entire army at a Leman Russ, honestly, with Tyranids, there's a pretty good chance that the Leman Russ stays alive, which is kind of crazy when you think about how many points of guns I can point at a Leman Russ, with Exocrines, Maleceptors, and Zoanthropes, but there's still a pretty good chance that it just hangs out right there, which is, it's the downfall of Tyranids. But it is the army that I play. So going into this, like I talked about the other one, I was going to do my best to move block. I was going to do my best to kill scoring units and basically just keep Ricky where he didn't want to be and be able to expand my control of the board in a way that affected my score. Another thing that kind of wasn't going for me as well is Purge the Foe. And Purge the Foe with Tyranids can be really tough because a lot of our game plan, at least how I play Tyranids, is I want to initiate trade wars, get rid of stuff that, I feel okay just putting out there to die, and then being able to capitalize on my opponent, committing too much or committing the wrong units or whatever, and then taking the battlefield control from that point on. With Purge the Foe, it kind of disincentivizes that strategy because you really don't want to be giving up too many units to your opponent, because it can definitely just help their primary score in a way that is not beneficial to you. So another one of those big things is Spore Mines. Spore Mines, I shot my Biovore most of the game, most turns, except for there was one turn, the first turn, I hid my Spore Mine directly behind the blue, smaller rectangular template that is closest to my deployment zone. And I just had it wait there for a long time to see. I didn't want him advancing closer to my deployment zone, and I just wanted to threaten a Spore Mine score with Engage in All Fronts or something like that, which happened. But anyways, turn one, he pushed up most of his army and put it behind my terrain feature on the very top center of the map. So all of his stuff basically was right there. Most of his army, I think he had 2 Chimeras and a Leman Russ down at the bottom, and my Gene Stealers were in the middle terrain feature right in my deployment zone. So I had scattered my Gene Stealers up there. He puts everything there, which I think this was a big mistake and kind of turned the game for me. So with everything there, he had 2 Chimeras, and then he also had his horses blocking off like 2 Leman Russes, and the tank commander was in the back still. So what I did is I moved the Gene Stealers out, and I had them declare a charge just to the front of the Chimera, because the horses were like 2 inches away from the Chimera. So I was able to charge. Like, I think I had 3 Gene Stealers that needed to go base-to-base contact with Chimera, but my charge roll was long enough where I was able to, for the rest of the squad, kind of snake around, including the Broodlord, and tag and charge the horses. So that combat was very, very good. I didn't do much to the Chimera because Gene Stealers and Chimeras, you know how that's going to go. But the Gene Stealers and the Broodlord picked up all of the horses, which was actually the unit that I was afraid of the most. In just one activation, they clean swept them. It was very good, which was amazing. And then my Gene Stealers, of course, died the next turn, but he had to fall back with like 2 or 3 tanks because I was able to consolidate and tie those guys up. And then he was down his horses, and I think he had to commit some units in a way which probably wasn't the best for him, but he still killed so much of my stuff. So going forward after that for turn 1, the following turns, we kind of went back and forth. I had some really good secondaries that I drew, and I was able to score while also hiding things as best as possible, and just outscoring him in that way. I got a couple of kill mores because I was bottom of the turn that I honestly didn't think was going to happen, because I just focused like his infantry squads and everything. I really wanted him to have to dedicate his tanks or something to doing actions instead of his Tempestus Scions or Sly Marbo, which was a really good unit in this game. And then near the end of the game, I popped Shadows in the Warp. It battle shocked basically his entire army, which was phenomenal. It was so good. And then he had to redraw a different secondary because I think he had Storm Hostile Objective. But at that point, if your entire army's battle shocked, you're not going to be able to storm a hostile objective. And then he drew into a secondary. He was also not able to score. I think that was turn 3. And then unfortunately, we were getting close to the time. And we did talk to the TO, and I made sure everything was cool with Ricky and everything. So we ended up timing out at the end, but I was up by like, I think 16, maybe close to 20 points. So if we had played it out, there was a good chance that I would still win, even though it was a small margin. But it is always kind of like a little sour when you win from timing out. But that is the game, and we're under a kind of a timed format. But it was a great game. Definitely was very spooky, but I was able to kind of outscore in a way and outmaneuver and just hold everything back until I really needed to commit, and I got the W. Round 3, probably the best round. Is advertises the stream, and it's always a little bit of a win when I get to advertise the stream. Sorry for the hijinks, but honestly, at Wednesday Night Warhammer, we're, I'm a little biased, but we're doing some really cool stuff with our stream going on right now. About every 2 months, we're going to be giving away some big giveaway boxes. We just recently gave away a World Leaders Combat Patrol. We were very excited to see that go to a good home. We are planning on, GW always has those holiday boxes. Once those are announced and released, we are planning on giving away some kind of holiday box, depending on what our community wants, as well as depending on what box we think is cool. So, if you want to be a part of that, subscribe, join our Discord, and we will absolutely be giving out information like that. Every single week, we're doing this really cool thing. We're showing off our community art from our Discord. Our Discord actually has been kind of bumping right now. If you want to hang out with some really cool people in there, with some really cool work in progress and painting and everything, just come on into our Discord. The link is in the description below, and it's just a really good time. It's easy to say, but amazing streams every Wednesday night. We're getting into some hijinks. There's Zach holding Chipper, our resident orange cat of the studio house, and then Mike ate 2 habanero peppers, no milk, on stream. It was pretty incredible. You can see a short with him doing that. It's just a good time. And then I, on my end, I'm doing my very best to push out a different kind of tactics video every week. Normally it is around Tyranids, just because that is the army I love and play the most. So if you're a Tyranid fan, come on in. There's occasionally other content as well. We do tournament recaps and tier lists of different factions that we're excited about. So if you're enjoying this content, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. We're really, really, really just getting more content out, and we're just really looking forward to putting more quality content for our community. So thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we really appreciate the support. Now let's take a look at my round 3 game. So at the end of round 2, I was like, whew, I really do not want to play into guard again. And then I saw the pairing, and this list, Ricky had a really good list. He played it pretty well. He played it really well. This list was just, it was, calling it an uphill battle is generous, So this list was 15 Bulgrin, 2 6-mans, and then 1 3-man, 2 Rogel Dorns, and then basically the same amount of Chimeras and Catachins in there. And then he also had Ratlings, which Ratlings, if you haven't played against Ratlings, they're very spooky. And I'm going to be honest with you, I had an opportunity to screen out the Ratlings, but I decided not to because I wanted to see where he was going to place things. And I didn't realize how big of a footprint they took up. This is all my fault. I absolutely should have double checked. So instead of screening them with a lictor, I allowed him to place first, which do not do that, folks. Always, if you can, always screen the floor deploys. But it's 5-man, and so his Ratlings just took up way more space on the table than I thought they would. And they did some really cool things, but we'll talk about them in a second. First off, my opponent's Bryce. He was such a nice guy, and he was, and I can't say enough about all of my opponents at this RTT. Honestly, I was really able to just have conversations during the game and make sure both of us were always able to do the things that we wanted to do. That's the kind of Warhammer that I like to play, where you're helping your opponent achieve the goals that they want to, playing by intent and making sure that the game state is all hunky-dory. And if if you're able to play with somebody like that, then you're definitely going to have a good time. But for Tyranids, this is a terrible matchup. A double Rogaldorn and 15 Bulgrin is just, ugh. And stuff in tanks too. It's really tough. Tyranids definitely struggle with T10 and above, or some very durable units, which that's pretty much all Bulgrin do. Is they're going to sit in a point, and then they're going to be durable, and it's going to be tough for you if you can't clear at least one squad of Bulgrin. So I got turn 1, which was honestly not. It was not good. It's not good for me to get turn 1. So I did move up my Gene Stealers and that top ruin there, and I did my best to create like a magic box where nothing could charge them or shoot them, which I thought was an okay plan. But that means they basically weren't doing anything turn 1, which is okay. I don't really like to rush my Gene Stealers out turn 1 because I like to save them as a counterpunch threat. And then I pushed my Gargoyles up to see if I can move block the Rogaldorn. And then I committed a Lictor to the center point because I think I had like Cleanse or something. I had Cleanse. No, I had Containment and Extend Battle Lines or something like that. So the Lictor was on that objective. And then I actually did my best to, I had another Lictor that was on the bottom of the battlefield. And I had it move up to move block a Chimera and a 6-man squad of Bulgrin, which was pretty good, delaying him from doing things at least one turn with that bottom area battlefield control. But then his turn, like I scored a lot of secondaries, but his turn, he moved the Ratlings and all of his tanks on the upper side of the battlefield in a way where it just blocked in my Gene Stealers. So my Gene Stealers were going to be stuck behind that wall and not be able to charge for another turn. And that felt really, really tough. That was really not good for me. And I had mismeasured with my Gargoyles, which is okay. I should have triple checked, and the Rogaldorn was able to pop out and see my Lictor within 12 inches. So he was able to shoot my Lictor. So he killed the Gargoyles, the Lictor that was on the center, and then the Lictor at the bottom was of course killed by Chimera and Bulgrins. And then he also killed a squad of Hormagaunts that I had put onto the bottom objective as well. And so basically I lost 1, 2, 3, 4 scoring units on my turn 1. And, I'm going to take the blame on this. I should have triple checked the Alliance site, should have triple checked distances and everything, and made sure that they were much safer than they were. But it's okay. It goes like that sometimes. And then from that point, he basically just pushed his tanks and Bulgrin in the center. And I put everything into one Rogaldorn because, that was the thing that I thought needed to be killed the most. Turn 2 was that Rogaldorn that was near the center. And then my shooting miffed. Nothing happened really. And I think it was alive on like 6 wounds. So pouring everything into the Rogaldorn that turn and nothing really happening was tough. I'm still scoring a lot of points, but honestly, at that point, Bryce was able to just push all of his durable units into the center of the field, take all of the objectives, and just kind of steamrolled the Tyranids from that point, especially on this terrain layout. Once you get to a certain point, you will be able to see basically everything that is going to be relevant. And we kind of just talked it out after bottom of turn 3. I had not killed anything, and he had killed, I think, both Maleceptors, half of my Zoanthropes. The Gene Stealer brick was gone. I had like Exocrines and a Hive Tyrant left. That was really damaging. But then he had all 15 Bulgrin, and then 2 Rogaldorns, and then Chimeras and Catachins. So at that point, it was really, really tough. I still scored okay. I think my score was like 65, and he got like 80 or something. It was still a great game, great opponent, but I feel like this list encapsulated exactly what Tyranids struggle with, and that is high toughness, incredibly high durability, and very good shooting. I think Tyranids do a really good job of move blocking and deterring melee units, but going up against a very strong, durable firing line is something that the Tyranids are absolutely going to struggle with. And it kind of made me think about changes in my list in the future, which we'll talk about in a second. So, Bryce, if you're watching this, if this gets to you, thanks for the game, man. You're such a cool dude, and we had a really good time. So let's go to my final thoughts. All right, so final thoughts on this RTT. I had a great time. Thank you, Morgan, for putting on the event and making sure everything ran smoothly. I can't stress how cool and how good of an event this was. Everybody there was just fantastic to be around. Really, really excited to meet new people and play some really good games. And TLM just did a wonderful job hosting this event, as well as Layton Gaming. I think that's the name of the store. They are moving storefronts, but this store had crazy amount of inventory. So it was just a great time overall. But my final thoughts, gameplay wise, is I had tough matchups. It was tough terrain. I think layout 8 is okay, but the lines of sight are kind of wonky. And it honestly, like, it's okay. You can, if you really, really want to hide stuff, you are able to, but it's one of those terrain layouts where you really, really have to have those conversations with your opponents about, okay, if I'm here, can you see me? Because the smaller templates definitely make it harder to commit in a way where line of sight is not questionable, because of how they're diagonal. Your units aren't covered in as, a straight black and white way, in a way that maybe layout 1 or 2, your units would be covered, if that makes sense. So it kind of makes it tricky, especially with all my monsters, to understand, okay, you can't see these guys, but I'm going to let you see these guys. Sometimes it turns into, you see everybody. And that's just something that is hard to imagine. My goal whenever I go to an RTT like this is normally to go just 2-1. I'm pretty happy with going 2-1. I'm not gonna lie to you. I am pretty competitive in nature, and so I'm always looking for the 3-0. And that does happen. That does happen sometimes, or an okay amount of times. For when I go to RTTs, I feel like I do a relatively good amount of success. But honestly, if I go 2-1 and every single one of my opponents, I just have a really good time, and I'm able to meet somebody new, and just play Warhammer for 3 hours with a cool guy. That is definitely where my goal and my center of this hobby is. So I was definitely happy with my results, and thought I learned some stuff. Imperial Guard are a hard matchup, and I was talking to Ricky and Bryce, and they were kind of saying that there's not a lot of stuff that is a hard matchup for Guard. I could be quoting them wrong, but I think that's kind of where Imperial Guard are. I think they are stronger than some people might have thought, and then they maybe are as strong as some people think they are. So I'm not going to be super upset about losing to somebody like Bryce, or having such close games with somebody like Ricky or Joel even. So, I'm excited to have those good and challenging games, and I'm happy with those results, including happy with Tyranids. Like, yes, I lost one game. Yes, this is a tough matchup for Imperial Guard, but honestly, I really like where Tyranids are right now. I know we're about to come into an MFN or some kind of balance change very soon, probably after the London GT. But and this might be blasphemy, but I am honestly hoping for no changes for the Tyranids. I think they allow for a playstyle that is very unique. I think it is challenging in a way, but you are absolutely able to create a game plan within your Tyranid army that allows for them to function in a way that fits the flavor of the army, and it provides a strong competitive gameplay as well. So that's what I'm excited about. I just got to get better at them. That's fine. So talking about that, it changes my list. I'm going to try out Tyranofexes, and I know that I wasn't super high on Tyranofexes in a couple of videos before, but the fact that Rogaldorns and T12 and everything like that, my best case scenario was going to be wounding on 4s is tough. That's not the best. So I think I am going to, the change that I think I am going to make, and I'm going to try and play close to like 5 games before the Tampa GW Open. I'm going to try and drop the Zoanthropes, one Maliceptor, and then I think I cut like one Pyrevore to put in two Tyranifexes, and just see how those big guns go, the Rupture Cannons. Kind of shore off that anti-tank. I think with one Maliceptor, two Execrants, and Gene Stealers, I still have a good enough chaff clearing or elite unit infantry clearing that I think the list will still function without the versatility of the Zoanthropes. But I'm definitely interested to see how running double Tyranifex feels instead of the Zoanthrope block. Who knows? My MVP were definitely the Lictors. The 55 points for just 3 Lictors to just score actions, initiate trade wars like I've talked about before, and just really be in places that my opponent wants to be in. This is very good, especially the Rapid Ingress for free, where I do feel like Invasion Fleet kind of demands a good amount of CP, even with the Hive Tyrant. So yeah, other MVPs, it's just the Hive Tyrant. The Hive Tyrant is so good. I do the Bone Sword and Heavy Venom Cannon. I think that's the loadout that I've been chilling with, and it's been a really good time. I love that. But my last point is the list functioned exactly how I wanted, and I just don't think I got the matchups that this list excels in, and I'm still happy going 2-1, but I think in order for me to go 3-0, I think I do need to either at least rethink my game plan a little bit in order to go up into those high armor, high toughness armies, or change up and test out those Tyranifexes. So either way, thanks so much for hanging out with me and listening to me ramble about some tournament success. I love doing these kinds of videos. If you love watching or listening to these kinds of videos, please consider giving us a subscribe, a like, a comment, just so that I know people want to watch this more. Every single week I will push out a new tactics video, and hopefully every single week you will watch and enjoy it. Thanks again for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you Wednesday.